Hello and welcome to the Wonder Women series of the Maker Mom podcast. My name is Katie Freeman and I am your host. Every week I bring you interviews of two female or non-binary makers of all kinds, some of them parents, some of them not. This week's Wonder Women series guest is Taji of Melanated Maker DIY. I had a blast talking with her and learning about how she got into making, woodworking, DIY, carpentry, and how it kind of still fits in with her day job. Just really all kinds of fun things. So it was such a joy to have her on the podcast. Before we hop into the interview with Taji, though, I want to give a big shout out and thanks to the patrons over on Patreon. So thank you so much, Kevin, Lefty's Woodshop, Christy, Twisted Twine, Christina B., Jeremy Speece, Sammy, Go Sammy Lee, Lauren, Rasp File Designs, Sven, Dwarf Size Workshop, Rachel, Moody Makes, Bonnie, Tool Mom Bonnie, toolmomstore.com, Laura, Oakley Soap Company, Mary Lou, Made by Mary Lou, Amy, Bison Valley Carving, Dan and Kelly, Reclaim Living Store, Brandy, Studio Obey, Kathy, One Girl and Her Tools, Ellen, Little Bear Furniture, and Ethan Carter Designs. Thank you all so very much for your ongoing and continued support, helping me to produce 2 episodes a week, every week. And with no further ado, here is Taji with Melanated Maker DIY. So I am going to start and let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Taji, and I am a woodworker, carpenter, DIY enthusiast. And I grew up in Texas. I live right outside of Austin. And I've been doing kind of all things crafty kind of forever, but I've been really focused on woodworking and carpentry in the last, I guess, about 3 years now.
Okay. Do you still currently live outside Austin?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Were you affected by the horrible weather that hit?
Luckily, so our neighborhood was. We were fortunately and unfortunately on vacation. And but the vacation was like not a vacation either, because we ended up getting caught in the storm in New Mexico. And so we actually got into a car accident in New Mexico and spent the week there waiting for everything to like thaw and calm down so that we could then turn around and make the 12-hour drive home after
goodness.
the storm. So
that we all sounds stressful. Storm. Yeah, that all sounds stressful.
It was. Yeah, I laugh so I don't cry, but like
I totally understand that. Yeah, this summer we had here in Iowa, we had this crazy storm called the derecho. In fact, I don't even know if it's like on recorded history in our state ever before, but it's basically a land hurricane where we had like 200 mile per hour winds for over an hour.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and so my area in a city just about 30 miles north of us got hit really hard, like a lot of tree damage. I think we lost like 90% of our trees, and it was just crazy. And it happened to be the week we had like a planned vacation, so we were home when it happened, but we still left the very next day. We're like, I don't care, we're leaving, we're going on vacation. But it ended up being like the entire time we were on vacation, we were just like so worried about, because like our house still didn't have power and like all of that stuff, and it's like, okay, this isn't really a vacation
anymore. because it's like after you're like, God, I need a vacation. But then
Yeah.
you go and then, yeah, like we were texting our neighbors. Thank God we have our neighbor's number because she sells Girl Scout cookies. And so we're like texting her, like, is anybody's pipes bursting? Like, what's the situation?
Right.
You guys have electricity and water. And luckily, there was only, I think, one case in the whole neighborhood of someone's pipe bursting. And luckily, our neighbor, she was nice enough to come over and turn off our water main in case something did happen. But
Nice.
yeah, it was one of those things like we're dealing with our own hot mess over in New Mexico. And then there's a separate hot mess, cold mess happening in Texas.
Right. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're on the other side of that.
Absolutely.
All right. Taji, tell me, like, I want to know your story. What's your story? Starting as a kid into now.
Yeah. So I grew up as a military brat. So my dad was in the Army, and I got like the boring half of his service in the Army. We lived in Texas, and then we spent a couple of years in Oklahoma, which I don't like. I mean, Oklahoma was nice, but like as a kid, it plains, and so like, not much to do. So I think because of all of that, like change and kind of moving from place to place, even though we were attached to the military, I always tried to find something to do. I feel like I've constantly been on the search of like, what's my passion? What am I good at? I guess mostly even. And so I tried everything I could possibly try. I did a lot of sports growing up. Got basketball and volleyball, tennis, soccer. At one point I did clog dancing because that seemed like a good idea. Being in Oklahoma, there was clog dancing. And so I just tried everything. And I realized, after a year of doing it in school, that I'm kind of bad at anything athletic. The clog dancing I was good at, I will say that much, but all the sports I was terrible. But I kept trying anyway. So I tried every sport. I got to middle school and high school and really like focused in on band and became like a huge band nerd. Everything musical I was obsessed with. I was like a leader in the marching band. Like I was a band nerd. And so I just really focused on that and kind of stopped searching. I mean, I still did some things. At one point I was making clothes. At one point, even more recently, I guess, kind of right before I started woodworking, I was really into baking cakes and decorating cakes. So I did a lot of, it was like a tiny little side hustle of selling cakes to people and doing cakes that look like unicorns and pirate ships and all of that fun stuff. But I just have always kind of tried to do things. And somehow in the middle, I guess I got really lost because I went to school for business and all of that. Which was a terrible choice. Well, not a terrible choice because I have a job now because of it, but it was not the ideal choice for me. And I think like creatively where my mind was. So I hopped around the business school because I didn't like anything and ended up getting a degree in coding and in statistics. And that degree mostly just taught me that I should not be coding things for people. And so I went into project management, and I've been doing that for the last several years, kind of adjacent to technology and working with tech teams to build apps and products and such. But I always kind of knew like this isn't where like my passion is. Like this is what pays the bills, but this isn't what like feeds the soul. And so along the way, me and my husband, before we were married, had moved into an apartment. And my now mother-in-law bought me like a circular saw and a power drill, like a little Black & Decker set that came together because I was so interested because she's kind of a handy woman herself. And I was always asking her questions, and she got me this. And I was like, I don't know what to do with this in an apartment. Like our patio was like so small. I was like, I'm going to hurt myself. I'm going to hurt something if I try and like do this on this patio. And so I just never touched it for a couple of years. And we got married. And then about 3 years ago, we moved into this house. And I was like telling my husband, even before we moved in, I was like, I'm a carpenter. I think I'm a carpenter. And he was like, okay, like an IKEA carpenter. And I was like, no, I'm a carpenter. And so we moved in and I just was like, I gotta build stuff for this house. Like I want a dining table. And I saw that a dining table that I liked on Pinterest. And it was a restoration hardware dining table. So it was like an arm, a leg, and your first child. And I was like, no, I could build that. I could do that. And so I just started building things. And I haven't haven't really stopped since.
Nice. So I feel like a lot of your story is just like you're searching, right? Trying to discover like what gets you and what you get type of thing. What do you think? What was the first project that you made?
The first thing that I made was my work table. And I think it was an Anna White plan, or maybe it was like Shandy to Chic. I can't remember. It was, I found it on YouTube and I was like, I can do that. And so with my one power drill and my circular saw and like the tiniest little like Craig pocket jig, like
the single little
the single one that you have to clamp to everything. That so I did that and I built a table and with wheels on it and everything, so I could move it around, which has been great because I still use it after all these years. And it took me like a month to do. But yeah, I built that. And then the next thing was I built my dining table, which was not at all, it did not end up like the restoration hardware pictures, but I ended up just looking, and as I started thinking about it, I was like, I can build kind of anything if I can like figure out the math for it. And so I just started figuring out the math for like different parts of a table that I liked. And so I'd be like, oh, well, I like the end of this table, or like the middle of the base of this table. And if I can put these together and figure out how it works, then I can do it. And so I just started doing that. And it was definitely a learning experience. That table is probably way too sturdy that it needs to be.
Now you say sturdy, I hear heavy. Are they?
It was heavy. It was long. Because we both have, we like to invite people over and try and do things. And so we wanted like a really huge, long table. And so it's, I think 7 feet long at least. And it's just the two of us here most of the time and the dogs. But yeah, and I built it on top of 3/4 inch MDF. And then I did like a herringbone pattern with 1x4s. And so it was just like so heavy. We had to like, and it didn't even fit through the door is also the issue. We had to lay it sideways and like slide it through on a towel. And but yeah, it was just one of those projects, and looking at it finished, even though it's so ridiculously heavy, I was like, I did that. Like that looks kind of good. I should keep doing that.
And that's really, truly, that's a pretty big like project to take on.
Yeah, maybe over ambitious.
What do you think about, now were you saying you think you're a carpenter before you did either one of these projects?
I did, yeah. I think because I've always liked math, and my degree, it's mostly focused in coding, but I went to the school of like computer informations because it was like combined with statistics, which I also liked. So I've always been a math nerd. And so in my head, I was always like, well, that's how you put things together. Like if I can cut some of this and add to some of that, like, however, if I can use math, then I can build things. And in my head, even though I had never done it, I was like, this makes sense. Like I can look at the furniture, I can imagine the pieces that put it together. Sure, I'm a carpenter. And so, and even though it was like all IKEA and Walmart furniture that I was either buying and putting together, or buying and modifying in some way to put together, I was like, I could do this. This makes sense to me.
Right. Today's sponsor is Rasp and File Designs. Rasp and File was created to give new life to old things and create spaces that feel timeless, unique, and warm. Your home and business should be your sanctuary, a place of solace and your personal piece of art. The owner and woodworker behind Rasp and File Designs is Lauren Matthews, and you can follow along and find out more information on Instagram. Just look up Rasp Filed Designs, or on the internet at rfdesigns.squarespace.com. So you move into this house. You've been saying you're a carpenter. You make a few things. What was your husband's reaction after you made those two projects?
He was like, I don't know if I can curse. He was like, "Holy shit, I can't believe you did that." He was like, What else have you been hiding? What else can you do?" And he was really, really surprised. And I was also surprised. I think a lot of people in my life were also surprised. I know my mom, though, was like, "You always just do stuff," because I've always been searching. And she was like, "You're always just wanting to be like, yeah, you'll do it, and then you pick it up and you do it." And she's like, "I'm kind of tired of being surprised at what you're capable of." But he was surprised. I think a lot of people in my life were collectively surprised that, like, dang, you built a whole table.
So I want to ask, are you, I guess, surprised at all with yourself, in the sense of like that feels like something that like you want to keep doing?
A little bit. I was initially surprised because I feel like I've been searching for so long of what is it that I'm good at. And right before I got to woodworking, I was baking cakes, and I was almost turning that into a side hustle and making money and doing orders and things. And I was good at it, but I realized, like, one, it's not good for me to have that much sugar in the house at any given time. And two, it wasn't something that I felt like I could do forever. And that's kind of what I had been searching for. And so when I found carpentry and woodworking and making furniture and these things, I was like, I could do this forever. Like the math part of it is so intriguing that I was just sucked in immediately. And then the gratification of being able to like build something with your own hands and step back and say, like, I built that and it's exactly what I wanted because I designed it and I built it from scratch and I did all of these things. And I'm like, I could do this forever.
Yeah. What was it like? Designing that table. Like you said, like you had like an inspiration type post, right? Like something you were interested in. But then you went and you were figuring out the math to make it work for like what you wanted for like the base and the middle and all of that. Like, what did that feel like, breaking it apart and basically designing something from scratch?
Yeah, it felt like the best puzzle I have ever picked up. It felt like, it just felt like a math puzzle that I had created that in a way there's no right or wrong answer, as long as it you can eat off of it and sit on it and what have you. And so it just felt like a really cool math puzzle to be able to sit down and break down the dimensions. And at the time, I still really don't know how to use SketchUp or any of those like modeling softwares or any of that. So it was just me and some paper and figuring out, okay, well, this is the actual width of the wood. And this is actually how you like join things. And, I come from the school of YouTube, I say, and just figuring that out. So it was just, figuring out the pieces that go together and the math of it. And then figuring out through YouTube, like the execution of like, how do I actually do this?
Yeah. What do you like, if I said, how much of you enjoys it for like the problem solving aspect, and how much of you enjoys it for like the physicality of it? Like, what would you say that split is?
Probably like 60 on the design and 40 on the execution, but only 40 because of sanding, because I hate sanding. Because sanding is the worst. finishing is one of those things that, I mean, I love to see it when it's done, but there's the part of like you construct it and you get it together, and then you have to finish it with like the sanding and the staining and the sealing. And while it's great to like see your piece kind of come to life, I just hate sanding. It's like, so it's a whole 10% worth of dislike to say that it's 60-40.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I will say you probably are not alone and will never be alone in the fact of sanding. It took me a while to realize that I actually like finishing, but I don't categorize sanding as part of that process. Like sanding to me is just like refinement of the build stage. And maybe that's because I do, power carving. So a lot of times my sanding is like, to me, I'm like, it's just a lesser version of power carving. Like less sawdust is coming off, but essentially I'm doing the same thing. I still don't enjoy it. And and sanding curved surfaces is a bitch, to say the very least. There's just not a lot of great tools out there for it yet. So, but the finish and like, it can get exciting, to like figure out coloring or just like what's the right type of finish for what it's going to get used for, like an oil versus a poly versus all these different things.
And that's what I'm really starting to like get into now as well, of like the oils versus the poly and just all of the details that I hadn't quite thought about before, because I was just so into like the constructing and not the finishing. But now, and you make a good point, maybe I need to separate the sanding from the finishing itself. So maybe it's 55-65. Okay. Or what is it, 45? My math now?
There you go. It's good. We're good.
Thank you. But yeah, so maybe it's more of that split. But I do see now that you like say it, that the sanding is a little bit different. And I do like that. And I've done like home improvement projects, and I like recently remodeled my bathroom, and we've done some stuff, just quarantine has taken over. So we've done some stuff in our master bedroom of doing an accent wall. And the part that I do enjoy about that is always like the caulking, because then you really see it like fall into place. And it's like not just like wood on walls, but it like really like settles into what the whole house looks like.
Right.
So yeah, I guess the finishing I do enjoy, just not the sanding.
And I think that's very fair. Very valid.
We need a support group.
Yes. Exactly. So when following, I guess, kind of really finding this as your thing, do you still see it as is it going to continue to be a thing that's like just your creative hobby, or is there a dream out there to take it, further than that?
Yeah, I definitely think that there's a dream to do it. I think it's figuring out the how. I think because I've been doing this a couple of years, and it wasn't until last year, that being stuck at home with quarantine, that I was like, I've got some time. Let me talk to people on Instagram. And so I just started like taking what was then like my personal Instagram and just talking about putting together the accent wall. We had built like a huge patio in our backyard over the summer because we're crazy, and we thought it'd be a good idea to make a 300 square foot living space in the span of 5 days in our backyard. But I just started taking people through that. And then I got to the point that people were like, oh my gosh, like you should make a YouTube, you should start making videos. And I was like, who's gonna edit these videos? Who's gonna record this? And the people kept saying it, and I kept feeling like I needed to do something with it. It felt like it needed to be more than just a hobby. And so I started making a blog, and I started putting together the Melanated Maker DIY blog. And then I put it out and it was received relatively well. But then I was also looking at the numbers and seeing that people were like, you should make a YouTube, not a blog. So like, where's some videos at? So that's when I started making the videos, and doing that, I've realized that when I started making the videos, I thought about how I wanted to like empower people to be able to build things themselves. That, granted, I like math and that's kind of how my brain works, but it was also just me being like, I can do that. Like looking at something and just kind of breaking it down and being like, I can build that. And I wanted to empower people. I want to empower people to be able to do the same. And I've had people come over and work in my wood shop to build bookcases or headboards or what have you. And I really enjoy that. But I also think that there's kind of a therapy in being able to just do it alone, and for people to be able to talk to me about like what they need and what they want from furniture and that they're missing, and then to be able to come up with a design and build it and give it to them and just be like, I solved your problem.
Right.
And so while I love like teaching in the aspect of having people over, I also enjoy the ability to just kind of problem solve on my own. And so I feel like this is like the longest way around to your question, but I think that I do see it as like something that I want to do in the future, and to be able to have more of those really interesting conversations about just like, what do people need from furniture, and how can you make something beautiful that you have exactly in mind, that functions the way that you need it to function. And so the thing is, now I've been doing Instagram more, and I created my own Instagram, and I've been doing YouTube videos, which is just a lot, but also very rewarding. But I think the most rewarding part of it is, that started it all was me being able to build things, and me being able to like zone out in the garage and build a entertainment stand or media console or a desk or what have you. And then using it myself or giving it to someone, and it's solving a function problem of theirs. And so I do want to do more of that in the future, and ideally make some money from it.
So, and when you say more of that in the future, are you talking like making, like doing like commission pieces for people?
Yeah.
And
so I've started doing like a couple, but mostly like close friends that are like, my daughter needs a desk. Can you make that happen? And I'm like, bet, yes, I can do that.
Hey friends, I wanted to tell you about an awesome brand I discovered that you might love as well. Have you ever spent a ton of money on clothing that was supposed to be high performance, only for it to end up at the back of your closet because it just doesn't fit right? I personally hate when this happens. I get excited about a new pair of work boots, and then I'm disappointed to find out they just weren't designed for me. Discovering Athena Outfitters was a game changer for me. Athena Outfitters is a quality workwear brand for hardworking women. All of their items are handpicked to meet the needs of women in the trades, not just sized down versions of items designed for men. They've got great workwear essentials like comfortable, soft, and safety toe boots, and options for my active lifestyle when I'm off the clock as well. Shopping with Athena Outfitters saves me time and energy because I always know I'm getting a high quality product that also looks and feels great. Next time you're looking for gear with grit, check out AthenaOutfitters.com. That is ATHENA Outfitters.com, and use special code at checkout MM15 to get a 15% discount because you listen to the Maker Mom podcast.
Does the content side of it take away for you from the making the piece?
A little bit, because I like to like zone out, but then when you're supposed to be like making content, you can't zone out, because then I've also got to think about, okay, well, I'm doing this for YouTube, so are the camera angles right? And then also, I go in the garage to zone out, so I don't I don't put on any makeup. I don't do my hair. I don't do anything so that I'm also like, am I going to be in the shot? Because like this top half is not as cute. It's a lot of just being in the zone and then being out of the zone and just like switching context kind of being able to focus on the woodworking, but then also having to rearrange the camera and to make sure that I'm getting things on my phone for Instagram or Facebook or Pinterest or what have you. And so it's just, it is a lot. It's a whole extra job in itself. And each platform is its own separate job in itself. Yeah.
I guess so in that regard, what drives you to keep making content around it?
One, because I like to share it and I like the conversations that it's given me with friends that I haven't talked to in years that have been like, oh my gosh, I saw you did this. Like, and you know, I'm trying to do this home improvement project at home and I'm not sure what to do. And can you help me? And so just having all of these, having this additional avenue that just creates all these relationships and renews old relationships that I thought were gone has been so rewarding in itself, and not even from a carpentry way, but just a, you know, a social interaction way, which is, you know, also just a separate craving being in quarantine, missing people and hanging out. And it's given me kind of a whole new group of friends through Instagram and through social media, being able to talk to other women out there who kind of see things the way that I see things through furniture, and just making friends with them that I had no idea there was such a huge community out there. So it's been nice. And so that's what keeps me doing a lot of the content, is just the fact that I can continue to make friends from it and I can continue to learn from it, even though it is just a whole job.
It really is.
But you do it well. Like, I look at some of the people that are doing it and I'm like, what do their schedules look like? When do they sleep? Like, how are they getting by?
Honestly, it takes time, and it takes, and thank you for saying I do it well, because I really doubt that the majority of the time. But I think that over time you figure out a rhythm. Like, I'm in a pretty good rhythm when it comes to creating content for Instagram and TikTok, right? It's like, I get sometimes 1.5 days in the shop. And so I have to make that work, and I have to create enough content in that time that can fit the whole week. And so it's just a matter of like, okay, for the first couple hours when I'm in the shop, I'm going to take these different types of clips or pictures or whatever. And then after that, I'm pretty much just going to, you know, jam out and zone out and make my stuff. Because I used to, for a very long time, I used to take days worth of video and try to cram it into 30 seconds to a minute and show as much of the process in that time as possible. I get much better results with just a little snippet of that process. You know, I get more views.
Sane.
And it keeps me sane, and it keeps people more engaged, because now I'm only showing you like one step Monday, and Tuesday I might show you a different step, and third, you know, and so it keeps people coming back, which is, it took me probably longer than it should have to realize that fact.
That's a good point. I'm like taking notes.
But, and then YouTube is a whole different animal. And so it's like, I feel like if I could go back and start all over again, like, I kind of like you, I jumped into like all of the content at once, right? Like, boom, I'm doing it all. And it's overwhelming. But if I could go back, I think I would take advice that some other people have given, like, DIY Huntress, Sam of DIY Huntress. Like, I think she said, like, you know, master one platform and then like go on to the next.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, that is excellent advice that I wish I would have known 3 years ago. And so it's like, I've given myself permission over the last year or so to like not be as engaged and worried about YouTube and putting stuff out when I feel good about it. But otherwise, I'm like, I'm just not going to stress about it until I feel like I'm like ready, because it's like,
Yeah.
and you have to find your own style too of like a person on
Yeah.
camera. Like
Yeah. And it's like, even
Yeah.
through my YouTube videos that I've put out, and I have like maybe 10, maybe. And all of you see me kind of like trying all these things. And I was just thinking about it the other day. Like at one point I was like standing in front of the camera, talking almost like a vlog style of doing it, or like a retrospective. And some there's just camera footage of building it and I'm just talking over it. And I've kind of found that like that's where my sanity lives. I hope that it's like still like super quality for people and enjoy it. But yeah, there's the idea of like being in front of the camera is so draining, especially as an introvert. And I'm like, oh my God, like no one's even here, but I know I'm talking to a lot of people if they watch this. And that alone is exhausting.
Right.
And so it is like finding the balance. And I've been trying to focus a little bit more on YouTube than Instagram. And I'm trying to, like you said, and like Sam said, because I did listen to that interview as well. And I was like, man, she's right. And so that's why I've kind of been like, not trying to stress so much over Instagram, and just as I feel good about things, and as I like find things in my camera reel that maybe I didn't even necessarily take for Instagram, that I'm like, oh well, this will be good. I can make a video of me like randomly dancing in the garage. Like that's fun. People will have a good laugh from that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I can also share with you just from other conversations that since the pandemic started, I have seen that predominantly a lot of us makers who don't necessarily do like DIY home projects, our YouTube has just tanked. Like it's just down to like beginner level views and stuff like that. So maybe another bit of advice if you're trying to grow it is right now do all home remodeling projects and you'll get more views.
I've seen that. Yeah, because I have 2 videos that are of me when I redid our guest bathroom, and those easily have like 10 times as many views as building anything else.
Yep.
And so I'm like, okay, well, this is where people are. And then it's also like figuring out, which I had to stop myself, because I was like, well, this is what people want to see. Should I do an accent wall? Should I like redo the guest bathroom? And I've been having to like remind myself, like, this is not what you do. Like you can do it, but this is not what you do. And stopping kind of falling in the trap of social media, of trying to like make sure that I'm on trend. And I even did like a craft. I'm not super crafty. I like the woodworking, the carpentry, but like if I have to sit down with like ribbon and a hot glue gun, I'm gonna lose my mind real quick. And my aunt had texted me in December of these like little gift boxes that are like just 4x4s cut down, covered in some ribbon so they look like presents. And she was like, you could do this. And I was like, you bet I can do this. And so I started doing it. And then I found myself drinking wine, sitting at the coffee table, like getting mad over a hot glue gun and ribbon. And I was like, Taji, you can do this, but is this really what you want to do?
Right.
And I have to remind myself that, especially in terms of seeing things on like social media, especially things that are doing really well, like the home remodels and stuff. And it's like, I can do this, but is this really where I want to put my energy in the middle of a pandemic? And so it's helped kind of steer things. And I feel like I've gone on like an adventure of like, what in woodworking do I like? Because there's so many avenues. And I figured out that like building furniture and making functional pieces of furniture is my happy place. And I shouldn't be trying to like I shouldn't mess with that for the likes or the views or the anything. And, if I'm doing it and I like it and other people like it, then that's great. And if I get 20 views or 100 views or whatever, then that's perfectly fine. As long as, I'm doing something that feels good for me and not necessarily everything for everyone else.
Yeah. I think that's really important advice for somebody who's looking to get, maybe into more of the content side of what they do. And it's something like I still on a regular basis have to remind myself is that getting in that comparison trap, especially like seeing somebody else's, YouTube channel or Instagram and is doing really well. And it's like, well, they're making that. So I need to go off and like make that. That seems like a really hot thing to do right now. Or just in the style of how they do it, like the DIY tutorial type stuff on YouTube. And I have to like really remind myself a lot of like, okay, chill out. That's their journey. That's not your journey. Like you need to do what, to your point, like I need to do what I love. And you know what? The like weirdos out there who love to watch somebody power carve, they'll find me eventually. Like they'll find me and then that will be my tribe and that will be just fine. And it might take 10 times longer, but you know what? I don't enjoy doing voiceovers on top of my videos and breaking it down step by step because what I'm making isn't meant for that. It's not meant to be like, oh, I made this carved bowl. Now you go make this exact same carved bowl. It's not meant to be like that. So yeah, it's something I think, those of us who have been at it longer, I think still get in that trap sometimes of either it looks like that's what you're supposed to do because everybody else seems to be doing that, or just because I can, I should.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And I feel like if there's anything that I've learned through doing woodworking and then starting all the content stuff and then being in a pandemic and being in a car accident and being in a hot mess, like the one thing that I've learned is at the end of the day, it's me. And I got to do what makes me happy and what feeds my soul, because you can't give from an empty cup. And if I'm just doing things for the sake of doing them for other people, where's my happiness in all of it? And so it's just like you said, like the people who want what I do will find me. And, all I can do is try and make myself available and present online in a way for them to find me. But the audience will be there, and regardless of the size of the audience, it's the engagement that is always the most fulfilling, of having these conversations with people and figuring out, if they've taken something from it, if they've learned something, if they've done it in their own life. And that's the thing that's rewarding. And so I agree. I think it's got to be focused on you at the end of the day. Like, you have to be happy. We all have to be happy with ourselves.
Right.
And it's like a Dr. Seuss quote, like, there's only you. You can be only you.
Exactly.
Hi, makers. Today's episode is brought to you by toolmomstore.com. Tool Mom and Company is for all ages, genders. They have what you need for your one-stop tool-related merchandise of gifts and clothing. The products are fun, fashionable, one of a kind. In fact, I have two of the mugs. One has a circular saw with flames coming off of it and says "Go Girl." Another one has the definition of a tool chick. Both of them are super awesome, and I have coffee out of them almost every morning. So check out toolmomstore.com or find them on Instagram at toolmombonnie. You can receive an extra 20% off at checkout by using the code MAKERMOM.
So I do want to like ask you about, you know, I love your Instagram handle, melanated, is it Melanated Maker
DIY.
DIY? Yeah. Um, I mean, when you're like watching YouTube videos, graduating from the school of YouTube to figure out how to do stuff, and then now putting your stuff out there, like, I guess, what's it feel like in this space, you know, DIY and furniture making and carpentry? Uh, what's it feel like in this space as you?
It's been interesting. I think that and that's also part of the idea behind making it Melanated Maker. The brand name kind of itself was my sister's idea, because she's just good at stuff like that. But she, like, as soon as she said it, I was like, that's it. Like, that's exactly what it should be. And I think a lot of it, because I do want to empower women, and I want to empower Black women, because I grew up, nowhere did I ever see a woman build anything. Like, and I feel like a lot of the response that I was getting from friends and family as I started building things is they were just like, I could never, I had no idea. And one of the reasons I started is just so that people knew, like, one, there are brown people out here building stuff and doing it themselves. And also I hope that it would kind of be able to attract a specific audience of people to see me and be like, look at this brown woman out here just building stuff. Like, it's not, I mean, once you're in the maker community and you start seeing kind of everyone show up, then it's a little easier to find Black women out there that are doing what I'm doing. But from the outside, before I was really kind of in the community, I was like, who's doing this? Like, I mean, there's like Shar and like Ashley with like Smashing DIY, I think it is. And, you know, there were a couple of people that are bigger and more well-known, but then you look at them amongst the general population of all the people who are well-known, and it's like, oh yeah, I see that brown face in the back. Like, and I wanted to be able to be and empower people to also be like, hey, I'm a melanated maker. Like, I make things, and I'm a Black woman, and it's a part of my identity. And it's like, it's kind of like you know, just breaking stereotypes and breaking down walls of, you know, not only can I be a woman and build things, but I can be a Black woman and build things, and it's what it is. And like, and so it's been an interesting journey. It's been great to find people in the community who look like me and who do things that I do. And it's also been great to see people like you and other allies be like, this is great. Let me give this person an opportunity or a platform, or, you know, just sharing them on my Instagram or what have you. And I there's always like the little thing in the back of your head that it's like, would I be more well received? Would things be popping even more if I were like, if I didn't look the way that I looked? And I think that's, I mean, it's also just kind of part of being Black. It's always a small concern in the back of your mind of, you know, if I were not who I am, could things be different? And I try not to think too long about it, because I also know I slack on things, and like, it's not like I'm doing the most out here. So that could be a reason. But I think it's been an interesting journey. I haven't faced a lot of criticism or anything for being a Black woman. I think for being a woman in general, there's always kind of the small, well, at least mostly so far, it's only been a small bit of misogyny in like the Home Depot aisles and whatnot from men. And I'm just like, that's, oh, the patriarchy. Like, that's fine.
Yes,
you be
we
that
got patriarchy in on this episode. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm just like, you be that over there. No, it's fine. Because I have had people come up to me in Home Depot, and I'm like pulling sheets of plywood, or what have you. And I had a guy, and I was like lining up my cart, gonna pull the plywood. And he's like, he doesn't even work there. And he's like, hold on a second, I'll be there to help you in a minute. And I'm like, why? I'm like, I'm good, it's fine.
Right.
And I just don't think that I don't think that some men understand that. And maybe it's like the Southern charm and I can appreciate it. But I think it's also like, if I tell you I'm fine, I'm fine. Like,
Right.
You don't have to rush over. Like, if I tell you I got it, I got it. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate you asking, but also I would appreciate it even more if you listen to my response.
Yes. Yes. Respect the response that you get.
Yes.
And I appreciate you, answering that question for me. And to me, I think it's genius. The Melanated Maker is like, it's and it just rolls off the tongue.
My sister's going to call me and be like, I told you, where's my 10%?
Well, you can tell her when you start get rich as a content creator, then you can, or maybe you can trade, right? Tell her she has to, in addition, edit all of your video footage for your YouTube
notes.
So you talked about the community, especially on Instagram, but do you have anybody in real life that's part of your circle that like can geek out with you in the tool aisle at Home Depot? Or
not so much. I've had a couple of friends that have been interested, and so they've come over and we've built things in the shop, and they're excited. I had one friend who actually, her husband texted me. She's my best friend. I've known her forever. And her husband texted me right before Christmas and was like, I need a miter saw, I think, and some other tools. What do I do? And so I just started talking to him, and he bought her some tools for Christmas. And so we've been talking now about kind of converting her garage into a little shop and just getting a small work table put together and things like that, so she can start building, since they also just bought a house. But I haven't had a lot of chances. I think because I didn't really get into the community until the pandemic had started, that it's been hard to find people in my actual local community. Because I know, being so close to Austin, there's the furniture school and there's woodcraft, and there's people out there. And for the most part, I've just seen them on Facebook, on the Facebook groups of Austin woodworkers or what have you, and I'm just chatting up with them a little bit. But
there's quite a few women in your area too.
There is. It has been nice to see the amount of women in that Facebook group that are local, that are doing it, and a lot of women making wood art signs and geometric wood art signs and scroll saws and all these different things. And so I haven't met a ton of local women that are doing furniture from a small hobbyist standpoint. So I haven't found like a me, I guess, out there who's just this is my hobby and I do furniture. And I've seen a lot of women that are like, yeah, I'm working as an apprentice with this furniture maker, and I'm using dowels and biscuits only, and this is my thing. And I'm like, damn, that's really impressive. I'm not there yet. But that's really cool.
I think Maker Gray, Erin, I think she might be in your area.
Oh, I will have to find her.
Yeah, she's been on the podcast as well. And she works with April Wilkerson. So I think.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that Erin, I think, is in the Austin area. And then I know a bunch of other people who are Houston area. And I have no idea of my Texas geography, how close you are. So
it's 3 or 4 hours, depending.
Okay.
And then it's driving through Houston traffic, which is a whole hot mess in itself. But yeah, I am excited for the pandemic to be over, so that there can be opportunities to actually meet people in person and geek out with people in person. Because yeah, when like in getting in the details and stuff, there's only so much you can do over Instagram. Like I send people pictures and I'm like, how do I do this? Or what do I do when we chat about it? But I do like the ability of having people over or going somewhere and kind of chatting it up with somebody and being able to learn kind of hands-on face to face. So I look forward for this pandemic to be over.
Yes.
As we all do, to be able to have some like true social interaction with people and find my community in this way here.
Or even just being able to participate in the larger like conferences and stuff that go on. You can go get to like hang out with Shar or Ashley, you know. We're getting to the close to the end of our time together, so I want to.
That was so fast.
It went so fast.
I feel like I hear people on the podcast say that was so fast, but now that I'm here, I'm like that was so fast.
But I want to make sure you get a chance again to like let people know, you know, where and how they can find you and follow along with you. And now that you have said you've posted dancing in your shop, I definitely need to make sure I find that post. So yeah, where can people find you?
Yeah, so Melanated Maker DIY. I am on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and Pinterest. So follow me there. I have also started, I know you had Annette from 513 Woodworks, and she had also commented on my post of me dancing and was like, we should make this a thing, because my sister gets too much credit, but my sister created a hashtag and was always telling me from the beginning, because I would send her videos of me dancing in the shop, and she was like, woodwork and twerk. That's what you
see, yeah.
I was like, what? So yes, woodwork and twerk. You can find it on my Instagram. It's a hot mess factory over there, but it's a lot of fun. So yes, Melanated Maker DIY.
Awesome. And just so you know, like I've started when I can, when it's Tuesdays have become generally days in the shop. So when I can, Tuesdays are my dance video days. So just saying, if you want to hop on that train of Tuesdays and dance video days, then it's there. And I'm going to keep yanking Annette out of her shell to get more and more dance videos put up.
Yes, I was like, I'm waiting on you to do one.
She did do the walk, though. So,
I did see that. She killed it.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on the show with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been so great, and I'm so grateful for you just giving a platform to all of us makers out here trying to be seen and heard.
You are welcome. And yeah, let me know if anybody else who should be on too. I'm always
I will send you. I'll send you a whole list.
Yes. Okay. All right. Again, that was Taji of Melanated Maker DIY, and I will include the links on how you can follow along with her in the description for this week's episode, so you can check that out on your favorite podcast app, or if you're watching this on YouTube, just check the description down below. If you like today's episode or any of the previous episodes, please remember to hit subscribe, like, or comment. Leave a 5-star review over on iTunes. All of that helps the algorithms know that not only do you enjoy the podcast, but others like you may enjoy it as well. Head on over to Patreon and check out about becoming a patron and joining the tribe over there. So there's different tier levels. You get different merch, coffee mugs, t-shirts, what else? Oh, stickers. And no matter what level you pick, you get access to any additional content like live interviews, where you would get the link to the Zoom so you could hop on and listen while I interview and get a chance to ask questions of the maker of your own at the end of the episode. So that's pretty cool. So check that out. I do want to announce too, I am in the process of working on, I haven't gotten it fully set up yet, but I'm working on setting up a buy me a coffee as well. For those of you who maybe are not Patreon fans, or maybe you don't want to become like have a monthly amount that you give to the podcast, just want to do kind of like a one-time donation type of thing. So that's coming. I just want to let you know that that's an option out there as well. And just know that pretty much any amount that you want to give to the podcast, I really do appreciate it, and it helps keep me going and keeps helps to cover the cost to run the podcast. So I do greatly appreciate it. When I am not doing a podcast, you can find me designing and making furniture and other home decor, and occasionally dancing over at freemanfurnishings.com or at Freeman Furnishings across all the social media, such as YouTube and LinkedIn and TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and Pinterest, pretty much everywhere. I'm active, though, daily on Instagram and TikTok. So if you want to see what the latest project is that I'm working on, that's the best place to find me. So hit me up over there at Freeman Furnishings. And make sure you follow on with the podcast too, at Maker Mom Podcast on Instagram. All right, it's Wednesday, halfway through the week. Hope you're having a great week so far. And I will see you all on Friday with a Maker Mom episode.